A special problem. I think a real special problem persists in today's society, and that special problem is with specialists. In a lot of ways, it's like a double edged sword because it allows people to really immerse themselves in one facet and area of knowledge, and the more they immerse themselves, the more they can find practical application for that specific facet of knowledge within society itself. But the fact of the matter is that then their life is really confined to that one area of knowledge and that one lifestyle. And the more confined and specialized a person becomes within one form of enterprise, the more that their life relies upon that area for a viable way of life to present itself. So they're more reliable. It's like, for example, the news and broadcast industry today. Somebody wants to go into news and broadcast, and as soon as they commit to doing so, their entire life and the available means in which they can actually sustain a living through that, profession is linked to their ability to adequately provide news which gives entertainment value to an audience. And so, what if there's really no news which is pertinent to any form of audience? Well, then what do? You make up news because your life is dependent on it. And your life is dependent upon you being entertaining. So whether or not it's pertinent information or whether or not it's, information that should be spread throughout a wide majority, it's not necessarily so much in relation to the importance of the information itself, but rather the viability of those people that are presenting this information and the corporate entities which hold, their vested interests in their profit margins. And so what happens is as people become specialized in a society, sure, it allows there to be, great advancements and things that a society which doesn't allow specialists to exist to actually occur. But it proves to be a double-edged sword because as soon as the avenue of the specialty itself has been exhausted, and what happens is, in a lot of ways, these specialists then create problems themselves. Just like a news reporter, in essence, creating the news and the problems that you see around the world in day-to-day life because their life depends upon there being news. So in a way, their livelihood is in direct relation to the news that's out there. So they have a vested interest in creating news which causes an audience to invest their time in the news and broadcast corporations and companies. So that's just one way in which there's a special problem of specialists in today's society. And I don't necessarily know of any quick fix. The only thing that my mind can come up with at the moment is that, the hierarchy and societal system in which we live in is inherently flawed. That being said, like the Constitution states, we work towards the most perfect system, not necessarily saying that there is a perfect system in itself, but we work towards what we deem to be the most ideal situation. And just because we can point out flaws doesn't mean that it's still not the most ideal way for things to actually happen. So the only other way that I could think of some society to actually function and proliferate, an experience of life among individuals and entities would be that, there really was no specialists. But the problem is that for this society to really be a civilization, you'd really have to rearrange the whole economic system and how people are rewarded for work, because your work would be something which was very fluid and evolutionary and adaptive to circumstance rather than creating the circumstance. Do you see what I'm saying? The work that the society itself would do would be in direct relation to what was going on at that time, rather than creating the environment which gives work. So in a sense, you work until there's no more work to really be done, and then you alter your job. You change jobs. But for that to actually become an actuality, you would really have to alter the way in which society thinks and works and communicates with each other today. And the whole built-up structure where people gain, resources so that they can take care of themselves later on in life, and so that they can invest in things that they want to invest in. But that's really the only way that I could think of it being a fix for the issue, is that instead of people having set jobs, they worked a certain job until really there was no more need for it, and then you changed jobs. In a lot of ways, I think that people within this whole societal hierarchy create a lot of issues which could otherwise be done away with if their jobs weren't, in direct relation to the viability of their life situation. The police enforcement, we have this whole, and lawyers and everything like that. It's such a complex mass of complexities. And the reason it's so complex is because if it was simple, there wouldn't need to be these professions. Anybody could do it. So the fact of the matter is that it has to be complex, because the more complex it is, the more specialized people have to be to perform within it. And it provides a more viable pathway of life, and it provides them a continued way of life, rather than them having to change jobs and do odd things here and there based upon the environmental conditions that are going on, rather than influencing the environmental conditions giving your job actual work. Code enforcement and things to that extent nowadays are so ridiculous, to the point of where I can't go and step on a blade of grass without violating some sort of law which has been set in place. It's built upon this whole hierarchy of events where people that have invested their entire life into these professions are reliant upon there being some sort of monetary compensation always coming in. And to actually provide this monetary compensation continually, they have to come up with new ways and new codes, in a sense, and new laws to actually maintain the lifestyle which they have, dedicated their life to. And it's not just with code enforcement. It's not just with law enforcement. It's not just with, news and broadcast. It's with a lot of things. It's with medicine, and it's with, many different avenues of life. And so in today's society, we have a real special problem, and that special problem is with specialists. If you think of ways in which you think would possibly fill the holes, so to speak, of this issue, or some zeitgeist movement which could possibly change humanity's behavior, which would negate this actuality, then comment and make a video of your own and see if you can come up with something which can influence the thought and society that we live within, so that a lot of these problems aren't problems anymore, and a lot of these man-made issues no longer become issues in our daily lives, as we work towards requirement rather than working based upon the fact that we need to create work, and then we can really do what we want to do. Anyways, thanks for watching yet another video and installment of my YouTube channel, Euphoric Intentions, and stay tuned for more presentations.